Picture this scene from our source material today. It's a Wednesday morning in 1978.
Okay.
And you're sitting in a crowded room for a mandatory 8 o'clock morning meeting at a major corporation.
Ugh, the worst kind of meeting.
Right. The room is packed with about 200 sleepy, coffee-sipping employees. And suddenly, an improv troupe rushes the temporary stage.
Oh, wow.
Yeah, they start dragging people out of the audience, and they grab a young woman named Lindsay from the very back row.
Oh, no.
And the entire room collectively gasps. Because Lindsay is famously the shyest person in the entire building. Like, she never speaks. She barely even makes eye contact.
Which is, I mean, that is the absolute definition of a looming corporate disaster. You can feel the secondhand anxiety just reading about it.
Completely. So they sit her in a folding chair on the stage. They assign her the role of the sharpshooting frontierswoman, Annie Oakley, and they just yell, "Go." And for 30 agonizing seconds, nothing happens. It is pure, painful, uninterrupted silence. The vice president of the department is literally burying his face in his hands in the front row.
Just waiting for the train crash.
Exactly. The tension is unbearable. And then Lindsay launches out of her chair. She pushes off with so much force that the folding chair snaps backward and slams flat onto the floor.
Really?
Yes. And she screams in this flawless, theatrical, Broadway-level Western accent. She yells, "We've been stuck on this here mountain for over a month and I need me a man."
That is amazing. And the room, I imagine, completely explodes.
No, it's a 5-minute standing ovation. Thunderous applause.
And what's crucial here is the context, right? Because this wasn't some experimental theater troupe.
Right.
This was the Wednesday morning breakfast meeting at WG Enterprises, which is the highly secretive, legendary design division of the Walt Disney Company. We know it better today as Walt Disney Imagineering.
Exactly. And sitting in the audience watching this total corporate anarchy unfold is a brand new, completely terrified employee named Kevin P Rafferty.
The legend himself.
Yeah. So today's deep dive is exploring the incredibly unlikely, wildly messy, and hilariously accidental origin story of this legendary Disney Imagineer based on his own accounts and historical records.
It is quite a ride.
It really is. We have a stack of sources tracking Kevin's journey from a college dropout who wanted to be a priest to a literal dishwasher making about $5 an hour.
To the man who ultimately designed Disney's first ever ride-through attraction dedicated entirely to Mickey Mouse. Mickey and Minnie's Runaway Railway.
Exactly. Okay, let's unpack this. Why do we always assume the path to creative greatness is a straight line when the source material proves it is actually a chaotic, stumbling zigzag?
Well, I think it's because society just loves the myth of the prodigy, you know.
For sure.
We want to believe that creative genius is this golden ticket that is recognized instantly by the powers that be. We love that narrative of someone walking into a room, showing their portfolio, and immediately being handed the keys to the kingdom.
Right, like it's just destiny.
Exactly. But Kevin's story breaks that mold entirely. If we connect this to the bigger picture, Imagineering itself isn't a straight line. It's about engineering impossible solutions through total chaos.
Yeah.
And to understand how to manage that chaos, Kevin had to live through a tremendous amount of it before he ever got to design a ride.
And chaos really is the operative word here. Let's trace his beginnings back to 1974. Kevin isn't at an art school. He's at a Catholic seminary studying to be a Roman Catholic priest.
Which is quite the starting point for a theme park designer.
Right. And he is failing Latin. But it's not because the coursework is too hard. It's because his brain is actively fighting the rigid academic structure.
Yeah, the sources note that while his classmates are translating Cicero, Kevin is busy drawing these elaborate flipbook animations in the margins of his thick Latin textbooks.
He's animating like toga-clad maidens dancing on ancient urns.
Which is such a brilliant early indicator of how his mind works. I mean, he wasn't just sketching static images. He was already thinking in terms of kinetic movement and narrative.
Yeah, he even drew an animated aqueduct, like literally a duck sliding down a stone aqueduct.
Right. A visual pun that he would ironically pull from his subconscious decades later when he was tasked with naming a massive water slide on a Disney cruise ship.
But it all comes back around.
Yeah.
So he eventually realizes the priesthood just isn't for him, and he leaves for art school at Cal State Fullerton. But he wants a foot in the door at Disney immediately.
Naturally.
So he applies for a job at Disneyland, hoping to be an artist. He sits down for an interview with a very cheerful woman named Marcia. And Kevin specifically notes in his recollections that she looks exactly like Marcia Brady from the Brady Bunch.
Oh, that's too funny.
He confidently tells her he's an artist. She looks right at him and says, "Great, I have an opening in the bakery at 3 a.m.
This is the classic corporate bait and switch.
Completely. He tries to negotiate. He asks to be a ride operator or a tour guide, anything closer to the magic.
But she gives him the frozen stare and says the job is in the bakery, take it or leave it.
Yep. And he wants to be in the building so badly that he actually takes it.
But the miscommunication gets even better, right?
Oh, it's so good. He shows up at the loading dock behind the Plaza Inn restaurant at 2 a.m. in a crisp white uniform, ready to bake pastries.
Just raring to go.
Exactly. Then the actual baker arrives at 3 a.m., looks at the master schedule and says, "You're not baking. You're scheduled at 10 a.m. as a DMO.
Oh, no.
So Kevin spends 7 hours sitting around in the dark trying to guess what DMO stands for.
Because of course he does.
He thinks, maybe it's Disneyland Mickey Organizer. Like he's a VIP handler for the mouse himself.
Or security role, like Disneyland Major Officer.
Right. He is projecting his own Disney fantasies onto this corporate acronym, but the reality is the exact opposite of magical.
Yeah. The supervisor finally arrives and drops the hammer. DMO stands for Dish Machine Operator.
Brutal. He is escorted into a windowless, steam-filled dungeon behind the Plaza Inn. It is an absolute nightmare.
It really sounds like it.
It's like winning a golden ticket to Willy Wonka's factory. But your job is exclusively mopping up the sticky floors beneath the chocolate river.
That is the perfect analogy.
He's making roughly $1 for every 2,000 dishes he washes. He's getting sliced up by broken glass. He leaves a 13-hour shift smelling like a dumpster. Ooh. If you've ever felt completely misled by a job description, imagine stepping into that steam room.
And if you're listening to this and thinking, you would have quit after the first hour, you aren't alone. Yeah. The turnover rate was astronomical.
I bet.
New hires were literally taking one look at the dish room and quitting on the spot, which meant Kevin constantly had to cover their shifts.
Wow.
But we have to look at the mechanics of what was actually happening here. This trial by fire was building something crucial. By being at the absolute bottom of the operational food chain, he was developing a relentless work ethic and an intimate backstage understanding of how the mechanics of a massive operation function under immense pressure.
He certainly learned the mechanics, sometimes by breaking them.
Very true.
Which brings us to the infamous Old Faithful geyser incident.
Oh boy. Here we go.
So the dish room had a massive operational flaw. The floor drains would constantly clog with food scraps and back up. Procedure dictated they call a maintenance plumber.
Right, which meant a crew would show up hours later and stare at the drain while thousands of dishes piled up, completely halting the restaurant's output.
And Kevin just couldn't wait for that. So he goes rogue.
He becomes a guerrilla engineer. He sees a bottleneck in the system, and he decides to bypass the corporate bureaucracy to solve it himself.
He realizes the restaurant's soda fountain uses pressurized carbon dioxide tanks.
Uh-oh.
So he disconnects a massive CO2 tank, wraps a towel around the connector hose to create a makeshift gasket, shoves it deep into the clogged floor drain, and decides to blow the clog away with pure pressurized gas.
Which from an engineering standpoint is terrible plumbing.
Terrible.
But from a creative standpoint, it is highly aggressive problem solving. Until, of course, the system fights back.
Right. So he shoves the hose in, opens the valve, and nothing happens.
So he opens it all the way.
Yes. Suddenly, there is an underground sonic boom that shakes the floorboards.
Wow.
He hears blood-curdling screams from the other side of the wall, the side facing the onstage restaurant where guests are actually eating.
Oh, no.
A waitress kicks the door open and screams at him to run away and never come back.
And he hides behind a dumpster in the alley for 10 minutes. And the reason why this happened is just a masterclass in unintended consequences.
Do tell.
All the floor drains in that building were connected to one central pipeline. When he blasted that massive volume of CO2, the pressure had to go somewhere.
Right.
It didn't clear the heavy clog. It just found the path of least resistance, which happened to be the floor drains located directly on stage in the guest serving area.
It blew the brass drain covers off the floor like flippin' pancakes.
Yep.
And out erupted a geyser of thick, black, crude oil-like muck.
So gross.
But the absolute worst part, standing directly in the fallout zone of this black muck, was Dick Nunes.
Now, we need to explain who Dick Nunes was to understand the stakes here.
Please do.
He wasn't just a manager. He was the terrifying president of Disneyland.
Oh, man.
A man who instilled absolute fear in every cast member. He was famous for his uncompromising militant standards regarding park cleanliness and appearance.
And Kevin had just rained a geyser of sewer sludge directly onto his pristine suit and tie.
Exactly.
So what does this all mean? How does a dish machine operator survive almost mucking the president of the company? I mean, he should have been fired into the sun before the sludge even dried.
He really should have. But the source material notes Kevin felt there was this cosmic, almost invisible safety net keeping him exactly where he needed to be.
Right.
But if we analyze it, it wasn't just magic. Management likely recognized his raw hustle. He wasn't blowing up the pipes maliciously. He was trying to keep the restaurant running when the standard procedures failed.
That makes sense.
Yes, it was catastrophic failure, but it was born from extreme initiative. So he survived Old Faithful. And the psychological relief of surviving that moment opened him up to an epiphany that changed his entire trajectory.
The contrast of this moment is just beautiful. So he survives this horrible, grueling, disgusting dish room shift. He's closing up late at night, completely exhausted.
Yeah.
And he looks out at the guests leaving the park. He spots this 80-year-old woman in a wheelchair. She's holding a giant lollipop and the string of a Mickey Mouse balloon.
A great visual.
And she turns to her granddaughter and says, "That was the best day of my life."
That is a profound shift in perspective.
Really is.
Kevin realizes in that instant that all the chaos, the broken glass, the dirty dishes, the grueling hours, it's all just the hidden machinery required to manufacture joy.
Yeah.
He realizes the physical environment of Disneyland has this incredible power to make an infirm 80-year-old woman feel like an 8-year-old child again.
Yeah.
He stops wanting to just draw 2D cartoons as an animator. He realizes he wants to manipulate physical space. He wants to be an Imagineer.
But the path there is still not straight. Fast forward to 1976. If the dish room taught him the backstage mechanics, his next move threw him directly onto the main stage.
Quite literally.
He gets a promotion and goes from the dungeon of the dish room to becoming a busboy at Club 33.
Wow.
This is the ultra-exclusive, private, members-only restaurant hidden in New Orleans Square. Talk about whiplash. Suddenly, he's wearing a tuxedo, dealing with high society expectations and dropping French phrases.
He's gone from managing a swamp to managing a gala.
Basically.
And the stakes are infinitely higher because the chaos has to remain completely invisible to the guests. Which brings us to the mechanics of the famous butter incident.
Oh, this scene reads like pure physical comedy. So Kevin is assigned to a table of 8 high-powered businessmen in expensive dark suits.
Okay.
His job is to serve individual pats of butter to each guest. But the procedure is insanely complex. You have to lift the butter from a silver seashell dish using a tiny cocktail fork.
Wait, a tiny cocktail fork?
Yes, but you can't stab the butter. It has to rest perfectly balanced on the curve of the fork.
That sounds impossible.
It is. Then you stand behind their right shoulder, hover the fork, and gently place it on their bread plate. It's like playing Operation and Twister at the same time.
And inevitably, when you introduce that many points of failure, the operation fails.
Completely. He hovers the fork over the first guest, and the butter slips off.
Oh, no.
It lands perfectly on the back of the businessman's dark suit jacket, right on the shoulder blade.
Of course it does.
A guest doesn't notice. The table is still talking. Kevin is frozen in absolute panic.
But this is where we see the DNA of an Imagineer in action, perfectly demonstrated by Kevin's fellow busboy, David Hunsaker.
David is the real hero here.
He really is. David sees the disaster unfolding and immediately swoops in to control the environment and direct the audience's attention.
David throws his arms up, loudly welcomes the men to Club 33, completely distracting the entire table.
Brilliant.
Right. And while they're looking up at him, David signals Kevin with his eyes. Kevin flicks the butter off the guy's shoulder, but the butter flies through the air and splats directly onto the glass lens of an expensive Nikon camera sitting on a neighboring table.
It just gets worse.
It does.
But David doesn't miss a beat. He smoothly glides over to the other table, asks if they want a picture taken to commemorate the evening, and scoops up the camera.
It's so smooth.
As he brings the viewfinder to his eye, he wipes the butter off the lens with his thumb, drops the butter down the cuff of his own shirt sleeve, and yells, "Say butter. I mean cheese."
That is just incredible.
What's fascinating here is that this isn't just a funny restaurant story. This is pure showmanship. It's rapid-fire crisis management, reading the room, and maintaining the illusion of perfection no matter what is going wrong behind the scenes.
Right.
This is exactly what Imagineers have to do when a complex ride system breaks down or a special effect fails. You control the sightlines.
But Kevin wasn't just learning how to be a polished professional. He was also learning how to be a bit of a rebel.
Oh, for sure.
Like the time he borrowed a human-sized rubber mermaid from the maintenance lot.
As one does.
Right. He carried her up the back stairs of Club 33 and set her up in the fearsome manager Jim Lohman's desk chair.
Wow.
He put Jim's pipe in her mouth, put a gold pen in her hand, and wrote a note saying, "Want to go for a swim, big boy?"
That is so bold.
Now, hold on. I'm struggling with this. You're saying Imagineering rewards rule breaking, but earlier we saw Dick Nunes practically ready to execute people over dirty suits and rigorous standards. I mean, isn't carrying a half-naked rubber mermaid up a flight of stairs at Disneyland a wildly unprofessional, fireable offense?
It's a great question because it highlights the fundamental contradiction of creative companies. In almost any strictly operational environment, you'd be out the door before the ink dried on the HR write-up.
Exactly.
But at Disney, there was a dividing line between operations and creative development. In the pipeline to Imagineering, there was a deep appreciation for a mischievous, slightly rebellious spirit. You have to be willing to subvert expectations to create something entirely new.
Okay, I can see that.
Kevin was constantly testing those boundaries, and again, the invisible safety net held. No one ever mentioned the mermaid. She just vanished back into the maintenance lot.
That invisible safety net strikes again. So Kevin eventually gets his Bachelor of Arts degree. He's feeling pretty good. He's an assistant manager at Club 33, making decent money.
Things are looking up.
But then he sees it. Pinned to a backstage bulletin board is a poster. "Mickey wants you."
WED Enterprises is recruiting artists for a massive new project called Epcot Center.
And we have to emphasize why Epcot was such a massive deal. It wasn't just another theme park. It was a do-or-die expansion that completely fundamentally changed the scope of Imagineering.
It was huge.
They were building a permanent World's Fair, which meant they needed an army of new talent. The Mecca of magic was suddenly opening its gates.
So he sprints to a backstage payphone. A recruiter named Sally answers. She says it's his lucky day. There was exactly one interview slot left.
Perfect timing.
But then the automated operator cuts in. "Please deposit 35 cents for 3 minutes.
Oh no, not the automated operator.
No.
Kevin empties his pockets. Nothing. He's totally broke until payday. He begs Sally not to hang up.
And in a moment, straight out of a Hollywood screenplay, his future wife, Patty, appears in the hallway.
She wasn't even supposed to be at work yet. She'd been called in early. He frantically begs her for coins. She demands to know who Sally is first.
Which is completely fair.
Completely fair. But she hands over 2 quarters. He secures the interview.
But securing the interview is just the beginning of the ordeal. Getting to it is a test of sheer endurance.
Oh, the drive to Glendale is legendary. Kevin buys a brand new wool suit on his first ever credit card. He packs up his art portfolio and gets into his car.
His very reliable car.
Right. It's a ticking time bomb of a Fiat appropriately named Old Unreliable. He has to drive 50 miles in a torrential downpour. The convertible top is ripped, so the rain is just pouring into the cabin.
Just pouring right in.
He is desperately stuffing pages from his map book into the holes in the roof to stop the leaking.
And it gets worse sensorially.
Oh, it does.
The night before, Patty had spilled an entire strawberry milkshake between the seats.
Oh, that's right.
So now the car is flooding, the new wool suit is soaked, and the interior smells intensely of wet sheep and moldy strawberries.
Just the perfect scent for a job interview.
Absolutely.
He arrives 2 hours early, just sitting in a puddle of water in his car. Finally, he makes a mad dash through the rain to a cluster of temporary trailers in the parking lot across from the main WED building. The wind is howling, the door blows open.
Very dramatic.
And standing in the doorway, illuminated by a flash of lightning, is Don Tomlin. And the source material paints quite a picture of Don. Everything about him is square. His jaw, his mustache, his belt buckle, the top of his cowboy hat.
He sounds intense.
He looked like a strict sheriff from an old Western. Here's where it gets really interesting. Don Tomlin is not an art director. He's the manager of special services.
So they sit down. The HR representative asks Kevin where he sees himself in 10 years.
Kevin, full of confidence, says, "In 10 years, I see myself still as an artist in the creative department here at WED."
Nice and confident.
But Don Tomlin stares at him like he is completely out of his mind. Don says, hold your horses. I'm not interviewing you to be an artist.
You have to understand that the creative department at WED during that era was a pantheon of gods.
Right.
These were the original designers handpicked by Walt Disney himself to build the 1964 World's Fair and the original Disneyland.
Right.
You didn't just walk in off the street with a wet portfolio and join them.
Not at all. Don explains that the job is for special services. That means sweeping floors, emptying trash cans, setting up heavy folding chairs in conference rooms, dusting the architectural models.
That's brutal manual labor.
And cutting cardboard mats to frame the concept art that the real artists drew. Oh, and the cherry on top. It pays less per hour than his current management job at Club 33.
It is a massive step backward in pay, prestige, and physical comfort. But psychologically, this is the ultimate test of ego. Does he want a comfortable, well-paying job on the outside, or does he want to be on the inside, even if he's holding a broom?
Right.
Being a floor sweeper in the right building is infinitely more valuable than being a manager in the wrong one.
And Kevin checks his ego at the door. He takes the job. He trades his tuxedo for a trash can. 2 weeks later, he's at the Disney University orientation.
Back at the bottom.
Yep. And he is so genuinely excited to be there that he spends the morning designing a highly complex, 3D shadowed, beautifully lettered name tag for himself. He sits down next to a grumpy older man in white loafers who just scribbled his name on the tag like a hasty doctor's prescription.
The older man introduces himself simply as Carl.
So Kevin decides Carl needs a pep talk. He starts enthusiastically explaining the magic of WED to Carl. He tells him how Walt handpicked the first Imagineers.
Oh boy.
He points to his fancy name tag and says, when you get your real name tag, Carl, think about how many people in the world get to wear these. We are about to head to the Mecca of magic.
It's so pure.
The source material leaves Carl's true identity a fun mystery, but Kevin's unabashed, naive enthusiasm is just incredible. He doesn't care who is sitting next to him or how low his rank is. He just believes in the magic of the building.
And that unabashed enthusiasm is his armor. Because when he finally walks through the doors of 1401 Flower Street, he is hit with a massive culture shock.
Big time. He reports to his new boss, Sheriff Don Comlin, who informs him that his lunch is exactly from 12.00 to 1.00, not 1.01. Every single minute is rigidly regulated.
Very strict.
But then Kevin looks out into the hallways of the creative wing.
It is absolute unbridled chaos.
Completely. He sees men with long hair and massive beards, which were strictly forbidden by Dick Nunis over at Disneyland.
Right, the strict dress code.
He sees a female designer walking by wearing a Girl Scout uniform she made entirely out of paper.
Amazing.
He sees guys in double-knit leisure suits and rose-colored glasses looking like Sonny Bono. Men are running down the halls carrying massive 4-by-8-foot storyboards, puffing on cigarettes so hard they look like speeding steam trains.
It is a beautiful collision of two entirely different worlds. You have the rigid, unyielding structure of Sheriff Don Tomlin, ensuring the floors are swept, the models are dusted, and the meetings start exactly on time. Right. And right next to it, you have the wild, unstructured, bohemian creativity of the artists dreaming up the future. If we connect this to the bigger picture, this friction is the true secret of Disney's success.
Yeah, Kevin sees a sign taped to the door of John Zovich, the vice president of engineering. It says, lead, follow, or get the hell out of the way.
That sign perfectly encapsulates the Imagineering ethos. You need extreme, unrelenting discipline to actually engineer and build these impossible ride systems, but you need unhinged, limitless imagination to dream them up in the first place.
Exactly.
You simply cannot have one without the other.
So we have a guy who failed his seminary Latin class, washed 2,000 dishes for $1 an hour, almost ruined the company president's suit with sewer water, served butter with a tiny cocktail fork, and took a pay cut to empty trash cans.
What a resume.
Right. Yet he possessed the exact right cocktail of grit, enthusiasm, and timing to eventually rise from that broom closet to become a Disney legend.
He proved he was willing to learn the operational realities and do whatever it took to support the magic long before he was ever allowed to create it himself.
And if you're listening to this, think about your own career trajectory. We all have those frustrating, seemingly dead-end tasks on our to-do lists that feel beneath us.
We all do.
But how is your current dish room, your current sweeping job, actually teaching you the hidden mechanics of your industry? What vital operational muscles are you building in the dark that will sustain you when you finally hit the main stage?
I want to leave you with a final thought to mull over. We live in a modern work culture that is obsessed with life hacks and skipping straight to the finish line. We constantly want the title and the prestige without enduring the grind.
So true.
But maybe, just maybe, the most important creative skill you can ever develop is the willingness to be the absolute lowest, least important person in the room, as long as you make sure it's the right room.
Because sometimes you don't need a straight, logical path to success. Sometimes you just need to launch your folding chair backward, stare straight into the corporate chaos, and scream, "I need me a man!"